It came to a sudden halt in front of me. That strange back a few steps in surprise. Jane? Thad, what are you doing here? It had to be a dream. I can't tell you exactly. Why are you here? I can't explain right now, either. It's a long story, and right now I need to get them some help, I said, gesturing down the prone sisters. What happened? They're my sisters, and as I said, it's hard to explain. They're breathing, but they fainted when they saw. I suddenly realized who they had seen. You're here with Tesla, aren't you? Don't ask me that, he replied, looking away. I didn't have to. It was now certain that was Tesla who had passed us in disguise, not even willing to greet me. What was he up to that he had caused the twins to be such overwhelming distress? A horn sounded, and I looked up at Thad in alarm. Are we leaving? So fast? Thad nodded. I think everyone's boarded, and the third-class passengers were the last to come on. We have to get off the ship, I said. You're not booked for the trip? He asked. No, are you? He nodded. My heart sank. Our reunion would be painfully brief. Seeing him again had reawakened all the longing I'd felt these last months. My effort to forget him were undone in seconds. It wasn't right that we would be separated again so soon. The boat's going to leave, he cautioned, as the horn sounded once again. If you plan to get off, you better go. I have to find Mimi and my other sister Blythe. In fact, you and Tesla shouldn't be on the ship either. Why not? Oh, you'll think I'm crazy, but... What? He pressed. We've just come from a psychic conference and learned that the ship is going to sink, I blurted. He stared at me skeptically. I won't worry about it, Jane, he said, suppressing a grin. I'm not exactly sure it's true anymore either, I admitted, but it's not worth taking any chance. And how are you going to get these two out of here before the ship sails? I asked. I don't know, I replied. I could carry one of my sisters. Maybe you and Lee could carry the other between you, Thad suggested. All right, I agreed. Let it try. Thad spoke to Lee in Chinese, and she nodded and lifted Amelie under her arms, and I took hold of her feet. And Thad was trying to get Emma over his shoulder with a loud, shrill third blast blew. Where should we go? I asked, utterly lost. I'm not sure. Let's carry them towards the bow. As we got closer to the happy, waving crowds towards the bow, a uniformed steward approached us. What happened to these young women? He demanded. Thad, Lee, and I looked at one another, speechless. They fainted, Thad replied, after a quick moment of indecision. Where are you taking them? He asked suspiciously. We have to get off the ship, I admitted, but at the moment the fourth defraining sound of the horn obscured my words. The ship lurched, knocking Lee and me off balance. Staggered and Emma still hanging between us. The Titanic was moving. At the same time, Emma and Amelie began to come on. Ladies, are you feeling better? The steward asked. I think so, Emma stammered drowsily. And you, miss? He addressed Emily. She doesn't speak, Emma told him. She seems much better, I offered. Very well then, the steward said, satisfied, moving on. The three of us had no tickets, I told Dad. What do we do now? He made no answer, but his baffling expression said that he had no idea, and what we should do. Just don't let them catch you, I suppose, he suggested. It might not be such a bad thing if they put us off for having no tickets. I suggested, of course. There would be the problem of how to get home from France or Ireland, but the places the ship would stop before New York made especially difficult by the fact that the three of us had no money. The ship is not going to sink, Thad said confidently once again. He told a folded brochure from his back pocket, and it had been issued by the White Star Line. Read this, he said. It says that the ship has been designed to be unsinkable. As he spoke, there was a loud crack and jolt, as if the ship had hit something very large. What was that? Thad cried, alarmed. A wide grin swept over my face, and hugely reassured, the sound nearly giddy with relief, in fact. Would the ship sink right here, right now? If it was going to sink, this was surely the place to do it. While it was still in the protected Southampton waters, with hundreds of people on shore watching, there were boats everywhere that would come out to help in a moment's notice. The ship's lifeboats would never have to be used. Why are you smiling, Thad? Asked me, looking perplexed. I'll tell you later, I said, and the five of us hurried to the bow. The boat of many passengers hung at the railing, cautiously watching the activity below. It turned out that the Titanic had hardly out of port when it collided with a much smaller vessel, the New York. Neither greatly damaged. I hope the Titanic had sunk just a fraction sprung and pinprick of a leak. I knew for years that Spearville and the clairvoyance was not an exact science, and I recalled that the mediums of the town square, I'm getting that J are either initials or a junior. What if Mamstead and Mr. Robson had really processed externally precautions, could truly predict that there would be a collision and some damage on the ship, might not be the wrong, but severely of an accident. Of course they could be. They had the right about the incident, but wrong about the details of it. This was what they'd predicted. It just happened. Their premonition had occurred, and it was now over. I didn't voice any of this because it didn't think of it anymore, and the truth of hindsight, I realized now that I didn't want to risk having Emma tell me anything differently. As far as I was concerned, the danger had passed. The Titanic was underway, and there was no chance of getting off now. Our biggest challenge was to get to New York without being discovered or locked up for having no tickets. They probably had some sort of jail on the ship and had everything else conceivable, so why not that? And I didn't want to spend the trip sitting inside a windowless box. Besides, if I was in jail, I wouldn't be able to spend time with Dad. I had all my dreams and longing of him somehow made this happen. At the moment, that was how it seemed to me. I forced my desires to see him again, and had somehow brought him back to me. I knew such thinking made no sense, but I also heard people say that if you couple was meant to love each other and be happy together, somehow it would happen. Maybe all the events the last few months had occurred for just one reason, to bring Thad and me together. Perhaps our being on the Titanic wasn't predestined, but rather destiny.